Hi, here's the second video on writing the report. This one does more about formatting while the other one does more about content, but I'll describe a little bit in this one as well. So let's get started. The formal report has a purpose, and I doubled one here. One is to analyze, and that's mainly what you're going to focus on. You're going to find some information and you're going to analyze it, to understand, to explain how it affects the organization and how the organization should respond, or it helps to think through a problem or an opportunity. Now the first page is the title page of your paper, and it should look like the illustration on this slide. It should contain the title of the paper, and that's bolded, and then name, job title, and address of the person, group, or organization that authorized the report, and then the same information for the person that prepared the report and the date on which it should be submitted. It was submitted. You'll see that it's spaced out nicely over the page, and that's what yours should look like as well. No word art page titles. It should look like this. Okay, memo or letter of transmittal. Normally a memo or letter of transmittal, which you'll see in your book, talks about why they're doing the report, how they're going to do it, and thanks them for the opportunity. Now, I know how thankful you all are that I gave you this report to do. So I use the format that I prefer, and I ask that you. Okay, up next is the table of contents. The headings are worded exactly as they are in the text of the report. It includes only the page numbers where the section begins. So if the section covers pages 4 to 100, you only list page number 4 because it's automatically assumed that where the next heading starts, that's where this one ended. So you don't put 4 through 100. Okay, it starts with the executive summary because it comes after the table of contents, and it indicates the location and the hierarchy of info in the report. If you look, the third heading down there has some indents underneath it. Those are subheadings under that topic, so that indicates to me the hierarchy that we are following. The executive summary starts with the purpose. It presents points in the same order as in the report. It uses subheadings summarizing the content of the report, and it's a fully developed mini version of the report. And I'm sure you're probably all familiar with Cliff Notes or Spark Notes or abridged versions or summaries of books. This is exactly what this is. It's the summary to your paper. It's the short version that an executive might read in a hurry to get the high points. For a paper that's about 5 pages long, it should be about at least a page long and should include all the important points with your purpose, with your conclusions, and the pertinent information in the middle. Okay, I skipped ahead to the Works Cited page. You're required to have at least 3 citations. You should list the references in alphabetical order by the author's last name. If it's an unknown author, you use the title of the reference. I have Appendix B here, but you can look anywhere for information, specifically the internet. I know that's what most students do. You can also use Citation Machine, which is a website, or Word, the word processing program, to make your citations. Since Word 2007, that's been included. And what it does is it'll ask you information like author, first name, last name, title of the book, magazine article, where it was published, when it was published, the page numbers that were used, and then it takes all this information and puts it in the correct order that you need. Now, business and English tend to use MLA format, so that's what you're required to use, so make sure that's what you pick. Okay, so now here's page 1 of our paper. It starts 2 inches from the top, and it's only this page, so be very careful. If you change your margins, it'll change your margins throughout the paper unless you set up a section break, which is pretty complicated. So I suggest use the enter bar to go down you go down 1 more inch because you have a 1-inch margin that is default. Okay, it opens with the need for action. It'll define the purpose. Think about a purpose statement. The purpose of this report is to what? It doesn't always have to be typed into the report, but you have to have a good idea of what it's going to be, because when you do your evaluation, you need to know what are you evaluating. So if I'm writing a report to pick the best coffee for the snack bar, I have to actually pick a coffee. I can't just say, here's the information, I hope you have a great time picking which one you want. No, your purpose was to pick one, so you have to actually answer that question. Okay, using charts. I get asked about charts and visuals all the time. Charts are great visuals. It helps you clearly see it. Hopefully, it helps you see information very quickly and allows your mind to process it a little faster than it can if it read the information. It gives each a title that is clearly to the topic. You locate visuals as close as possible to the points that they illustrate. So if I'm talking about revenue from 1994, I want to make sure that the chart for 1994 goes as close to that as possible. Page 3 shows a good example of the illustration being introduced, and it points out what the reader should notice. Okay, page numbers. You use lowercase Roman for the perfunctory parts, so like the table of contents is usually page I, lowercase. The executive summary is page IV. Then the report itself starts on page 1 with Arabic numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Title pages never have a page number on them, even though they're counted. So the title page would be page I, the memo or letter transmittal would be II, and then so on. Okay, bullets and numbering. Bullets and numbering are great because they make it easy for readers to identify and distinguish related points. It draws attention to it draws your eye. Like, look at this page, it's going to draw your eye right to those bullets. I usually use numbered lists only if they indicate an order or a plan or steps that have to be taken. If not, I'll use bullets. The things about bullets and numbering lists is that they have to be in a parallel format. Remember we talked about parallelism? Well, here it is. So if all are sentences, they all have to be sentences. If they start with verbs, they have to all start with verbs. If there are phrases, they all have to be phrases. You have to be consistent with them. Oh, and don't overuse them. Too many graphics. I only allow 3 graphics, and I would include bulleted lists in that too. I wouldn't use more than 3 in a paper, because if not, then you just become one giant bullet list and the eye is no longer drawn toward them. Okay, so the parts of the report, there's introductions, the body, conclusions, and recommendations. Page 5 here gives the recommendations that are objective. They point out both the benefits and the risk of taking action. You want to show both sides of the story. Okay, the focus, you want to focus on the logical argument. There's 2 basic approaches. There's the 2 + 2 = 4, everything adding up, or we can use the yardstick method, comparing ideas against a predetermined set of standards. Heading, we talked a little bit about headings back at the table of contents, but we're going to look at, review the different levels for headings. There's first level, second level, paragraph headings. A good business report will have at least a heading per page because it serves as a roadmap to guide you. Have you ever been reading something and kind of lost track of what you were reading? Well, you can easily look to the heading before or after to kind of get back on track. You leave a blank line above and below each heading, and sometimes you'll emphasize or bold them as well. There's 2 different types of headings. There's talking heads and they're functional. Talking heads are more descriptive than they talk. Then the functional headings, where a functional heading might be budget. That could go in any report, anywhere, anytime that talks about budgets and be used. But if I'm saying Niagara County Community Colleges Business Department budget to 2016, that would be the heading. That would be a talking head. Okay, tables are great for displaying actual numbers or for comparison of conclusions. Here it gives some financial estimates. It's great when you need to show those exact numbers, though, when it's really important, because you can't get that from a table, or I'm sorry, not from a table, from a graph. You know, if you look at that bar graph, you can estimate, oh, it looks about 888,000, but I'm not sure unless I have the actual numbers, and then I would use a table. Okay, the conclusions and recommendations. I talk about this a lot in the other lecture for this. They should be emphasized by presenting them in a list. So basically, I want to make sure, you know, if I had 3 categories that I was comparing things for, apples, oranges, and bananas, I want to compare my apples first. And then I want to compare my oranges because that's the way I did it in the body paper. And then I want to make my comparison and draw my conclusion about my bananas. And then finally, after I presented those conclusions, I will base my recommendation. So I hope this kind of helped you get an idea of what you need to do for the paper. Thank you and good luck.